Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is an extra edition of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Charles Stackhouse, a member of the team that went to the Plains in 1999 and got the victory. We'll talk about that a little bit. But Charles, before we get started, Ole Miss has started 5-1 this year. They've kind of done what any fan would be happy about. Their only loss was on the road at Tuscaloosa, and lots of teams have lost on the road in Tuscaloosa. What do you think about this season so far?
Man, I'll tell you, it's been it's had its moments where everybody was expecting more, but these guys have really dug in and found a way to win games. And that's the most important aspect that sometimes we overlook because we think every game should be a blowout, or we think, these guys should just destroy people. But those hard games that we've won have definitely given our team some character, for sure.
Yeah, and you look at like Tulane. I think teams previously to this one would have lost that Tulane game. They obviously lost to Alabama. I don't know if they beat LSU. Heck, I'm not 100% certain they beat Georgia Tech or Arkansas. But this team is 5-1, but you can easily think back to recent memory Ole Miss teams that would have been 2-4, really.
That's true. That's true. This team really showing some resilience in the season early. I mean, if you look at it, these guys have went out and, they beat LSU, which is always, a tough game for, Ole Miss. And just like the Arkansas game, I remember back when I was playing, we went into 7 overtimes with Arkansas. Always a tough game. And, those are 2 SEC wins, by the way. That's another, big thing for these guys. So going into this next week, I think this is a big trying week for them. I think if they can get past this week on the road, I think they'll be good, man. They'll be good for the, a successful season, very successful.
Yeah, and Ole Miss teams that have won in Jordan-Hare, I mean, it's pretty much the 2015 team, the 2003 team, and you are the last 3. Tell me what going over there and during that 1999 season, you were facing Tommy Tuberville, who was the Ole Miss coach the previous year, all the drama that was going on. Talk a little bit about that game and what led up to it.
Well, I'll tell you, man, leading up to that game, it was a hectic week for us as Rebels, preparing for that game, preparing against, a coach that was once ours. And, it was a hectic week, but, the main focus was, beating Auburn. And that's where our heads was. And as for the players, we wanted some kind of retribution for, the coach just leaving us out high and dry and things like that. So it was one of those things. We knew we was going to go in. We knew it was going to be a tough game. If I can recall right, the night before we left to go to Auburn, we had a special team meeting where the guys had put a bounty on a couple of us. Me, dudes, a couple of us guys, they had put a bounty on us. And, we knew that going into the game. So that put a little bit more steam into us as well. And, me personally, that was a game that I don't like much because I came out of that game with a torn meniscus in my left knee. So, it was a tough game, and we knew that we was going to have to fight, scratch, claw, and do whatever we had to do to win.
Yeah, and one thing that game is probably known for is Romaro Miller probably got, not counting the Georgia game the year before, but got hit about as hard as I saw him get hit and delivered an absolutely perfect pass to Corey Peterson as the game winner that went on. Talk about at the end of the game, Romaro trying to lead you into a victory, essentially. And talk about Romaro in that situation.
Man, I'll tell you, Romaro was fired up. He was real fired up, and expect. I mean, even that whole game, you could tell his focus was there, and along those lines where you were talking about, where he got hit hard, and the game-winning play to Corey, he pretty much knew that all we needed was a chance, right? All we needed was a chance to win the game. We knew we had a great receiver in Corey. We know we have a great quarterback, and Romero, we know we have great running backs and Deuce and Joe. So all we had to do was get close, close enough to get a chance to win. And lo and behold, Romero, hats off to him, man. Absolutely phenomenal athlete, not just quarterback, just absolutely phenomenal athlete. And he made it happen, him and Corey, man. Those guys, I tell you, I about cried after that game because that was a tough memory for me. It was really tough. It was like, man, I'm out. I'm going to be out for 6 weeks now. I'm going to come back maybe in the bowl game. So it was a tough run after that. But those guys really dug in. I could see the spirit out there on the field. Those guys wanted to win that game.
I talked to Bill Flowers earlier this week, and he was on the 2003 team that won. And after that game, there was apparently a clip from Tommy Tuberville telling his people that he was never going to lose to Ole Miss again. And Bill Flowers said that was the last thing that David Cutcliffe played before they got off the bus. Is there anything that Cut did, like coming up to the stadium for you guys?
Well, it was basically, like I said, that whole week building up into that game, it was a whole, the mentality of the team was, we felt betrayed. We felt like, as a kid coming out of high school, going into college, you put your trust in a coach, right? Because you're away from your family, you put your trust in the coaches and you hope for them to lead you the right way. And that didn't end up too well, man, with those guys. And I'll tell you, that week was our most focused week probably that I played when I played there. It was all visions on beating Tuberville. I don't think it was even about the Auburn Tigers anymore. I think it was more like let's beat Tuberville and show him what he left. It was more like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Whenever you look back in time, and I like talking to former players and to figure out the motivational tactics going into a certain week, because people don't realize that's kind of the memories that sticks with people. There's some stuff that happens on the field, but it's those little quirky motivational things, like those Rudy type moments, the coach giving the inspirational speech, that you just don't forget that.
Oh yeah, Cutcliffe, he let us know. He let us know before that game, and just remember, these guys betrayed you guys. Just remember that these guys, you put your trust in these guys, and they turn their backs on you. And that was all the motivation that a lot of us needed, because that was a tough time for us because we knew we were a good team. It was like, well, how would he leave such a great team? You have everything you need in running backs. You have everything you need. We pretty much had a feeling that we were going to get Eli, like even before we got Eli, we kind of had a feeling, he come on his visit and he'll be around, and you could just feel the vibe like, yeah, he's going to be a Rebel. You know what I'm saying? And it was, one of those moments to where like you had everything on the line. Like here's your chance to get your retribution for a guy who really left you guys out in the cold. Here's your chance. And man, I was so happy for those guys after that game. I mean, I could have shouted for 2 weeks after that,
Yeah. And the weird thing to me, and you guys are my age group. This is my wheelhouse, like the teams in the 90s and stuff like that. But the groups of players that always, in my opinion, is going to get the credit for everything that Ole Miss is doing right now, everything that happens in 2023 was Rufus French, Romero Miller, Deuce McAllister, all of you guys, and Tuberville kind of turning his back on you guys and what you meant to this program. It seems like it even took it up even a higher level.
Yeah, man. It was like I said, that week, man, that whole week, you could feel it in the practices. Like, man, these guys, they really, they did us in, and they really left us in a bad spot, But thank God, thanks to the football guides for Cutcliffe coming in, with a moral standard, and knowing how to put teams together, knowing how to get guys on the right tracks, and more than anything, motivating us. To let us know that it wasn't our talents that made him leave. It was more of, a job thing. And, that kind of like put it into perspective for us. Like, like we could have easily sunk our heads and had a terrible season, but and all retrospect, it really lit a fire under us. Like they obviously we felt like he doubted us. You know what I'm saying? He felt like he was going to a better team or a better situation. So that was all the motivation we needed for that game, man. I'm telling you, we were fired up and ready to play.
All right. One more question, and then we're going to turn our attention to this weekend's game. But is it true that Tuberville and his staff took all the recruiting stuff with him to Auburn? Did he clean you guys out?
He tried. I'll say this. He tried. But like I said, thank God to the football guys that we got a chance to get David Cutcliffe, because he turned the recruiting back around, to where we were getting, top players interested in us again because, of his status as a coach and the players that he's coached and, the athletes that he's turned out. I think that really turned it made a bitter taste much sweeter after we realized, how lucky we were to get a coach like Cutcliffe. So it it was tough, but to say it all, to nail it up, put the hammer on the nail, it made us better.
Yeah. I know it's been 25 years and it's weird making you trying to relive all that, but I had some stuff that I was curious about. So let's turn our attention to the game this weekend. Ole Miss goes over to the Plains. Ole Miss, there's not many times in this history when Ole Miss has played Auburn when Ole Miss is absolutely the better football team. And in this case, I think Ole Miss is the better football team, but there's ghosts that happen at Jordan-Hare Stadium. There's weird things. I call it the horseshoe. In back-to-back weeks, you had an unbelievable 4th and 25 Hail Mary, and then the kick six happened against Georgia and Alabama. Weird stuff happens in that stadium. What do you think that Ole Miss needs to do to be the most successful they can be this weekend?
I think if they really want to be successful, I think they stick to the basics. Stick to what you're good at. Defense, I would say, play that land shark defense. Be all over. They need to play all over the field. They need to really, if they could smother these guys and really drain the energy out of them the first half, and get them to a spot to where they really feel like this is a good team. This is going to be tough. Then we'll get the edge on them, because our team, like I said, we fought the adversity of being down, the adversity of the tight games, and believe it or not, with these games like this, it comes down to stuff like that. Like, how do you react when you're in a bad situation? How do you react if you're 14 down? How do you react if you're 21 down in the first half? It comes down to that. And I think that if we play in front of the game instead of, trying to play catch up, it'll be, a chip in a hat for us. But at the same time, if we come out sloppy, give up like the Arkansas game, way too many penalties, too many, no turnovers. That'll be and that's one thing that Cutcliffe used to always instill into us. The team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. And that's usually the truth, and I think that that's what this game is going to come down to. Ole Miss making the least of the mistakes, the least turnovers, and playing Ole Miss football. Running the ball, and if you have to, throw the ball. I think that if we stick to those keys, we have a very good chance of coming out with success.
25 years later, and you just dropped one of General Neyland's axioms of success on me. No, David Cutcliffe didn't say that all the time. Just 25 years later, you spit it out almost word for word. The team that makes the fewest mistakes will win.
Yeah, and those, and that's what I say about some of the coaches that I've been around. They've taught me more, more than just football. Especially Cutcliffe. Cutcliffe was one of those guys that teach you about life, the morals of life. And he'll take you back to the roots of football when he's talking to you, and you can relate to him much more because you can hear his knowledge and wisdom about football. It's like the team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. That thing, when adversity hits, don't let up, put on more steam. He had a list of I'd say 6 or 7 sentences that we'd say before every single game, and we'll repeat that list. And those things were on that list, and those things stuck with me through life. when times get hard, I could hear Coach Cutcliffe telling me in my ear, son, don't give up. Don't give up. Just go a little harder. Put on more steam. It'll get better. I could hear him saying that. And like I say, man, it's those things that push players like me that was back in the day, players back in the day to, stick around now and be around now and help the kids that's under us, the teenagers under us, the youth under us, pass those words of wisdom on to those kids and let them relive those memories of when things get hard, what to do when things get hard, or, how to win a game by making the less mistakes. And I could take it back to, I'm not trying to take too much of your time, but I could take it back to, I was coaching this team at North Point High School, right here in South Haven. And it's North Point Christian School. And I was coaching those guys. Those guys, it was a small group of kids, not much talent. But we coached them on not making mistakes, on, calculating your plays, making your every play correct and perfect. And those guys went undefeated. Small team, not as big as a lot of these big teams they were playing, but they found a way to win the game because they didn't make mistakes. They were able to go on the count of 3, and they were able to, do things that a lot of these schools weren't able to do. And so, for any of these guys out there, man, stay honest to yourself. Always, always, always believe in yourself. And on top of that, if you do make a mistake, correct it and try to make less mistakes, and everything will work out. It's always like that.
Yeah, I was always told, people make mistakes. It's going to happen. It's just the ones that learn from it and don't make it again. They're constantly making new mistakes. They're probably going to be pretty successful.
Right. That's it, man.
Yeah.
That is the key. That is the key.
So, what is your score prediction for the Auburn game?
Score prediction. I'm gonna try to count this up real fast. I kind of wasn't ready for that one, but I think that based on the trajectory of our offense, the way our offense played the last game and the way our defense played the last game, I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think it'll be more like maybe 28-21.
Okay. 28-21. And before I let you out of here, I got to know, better linebacker, Armiga Spearman or Eddie Strong?
Oh, man. Jeez. That's a tough one, man. Man. I have to give it to, Eddie for the athleticism. And, even though, man, I really can't call. I have to say it's even, man.
Yeah.
I really can't call it because Amigas was a heck of a linebacker as well. I mean, he was a great linebacker, but man, I think Eddie was more swift, more agile, had a little bit more. But Armigas is the one you want around in the running game for sure. So.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Charles, thank you so much, man, for stopping by. I hope we can get you again, man.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime, man. I enjoyed it.
All right. Hotty toddy, bud.
Hotty toddy.